nouns, Abrahamic Accords, peace treaties, deals, to make some sense out of all this. How would we do it? We'd go all the way to Modi'in, Israel, and find Hanok Young. Yeah, you've got all the answers, right? Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is.
Yeah, I feel like this is the trend show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and let's just cover all the bases.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike. Hey, everyone. Okay, so you would be thinking that, again, we'd be out dancing, singing "This is the Age of Aquarius." However, in another 48 hours, we'll be in yet another lockdown. Lockdown here in Israel means that you can't go out of your home for more than 500 meters. Think 500 yards for our American friends, the length of 5 football fields.
Mm-hmm.
You can go out for food, the supermarkets. We don't have shortages like you guys had in America. Supermarkets will be open, grocery stores will be open, pharmacies will be open. That's it.
Okay.
They say 3 weeks, but if I were a betting man, what's going to happen at the end of 3 weeks is there'll be a big political argument.
Yeah.
The folks in the health ministry will say it didn't make enough of a difference, and the economic folks will say it's killing us. So let's go back to work. We'll see.
So, yeah, this so-called, I just find it interesting, that the first lockdown was during the time of Pesach, during the spring festivals, feasts, and now all of a sudden, okay, it's going to be 48 hours, which is Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, and this is going to go through the fall feasts. To think that
through
is,
the end of Sukkot, yes.
Yeah, to think that that's just some kind of coincidence is like far beyond my thinking processes. Somewhere, and maybe I'm missing something, and it wouldn't be the first time, but for that to happen from a government that is more aligned secular than religious, something has to be, some strings have to be being pulled from a heavenly realm. Do you believe that?
Well, okay, let's look at the first lockdown.
Okay.
It started in mid-March and went in early May. So it certainly, it hit Pesach, but it wasn't just at Pesach time. Yeah. This one, and again in the fall, we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, boom, 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 one after the other. I don't know. I don't know what the message might be about that. I really, all I know is that our economy is struggling. We've been, those of us who are out of work have been out of work since the beginning of March.
Yeah, your unemployment rate is well over 25%?
I think it's 26.5 right now. Yeah, it was 4% in February. That's to give frame of reference.
Mm-hmm. And in the midst of this, of course, we have the dawning of the new age of the Middle East. I watched yesterday as and I just find this so intriguing that they would call this the Abrahamic Accord. I watched that, and my mind kind of goes back to Clinton, to Carter, to different ones, to Rabin. The list of people goes on and on. Of let's find peace at any means with anybody, and in the midst of that, And in the midst of that being signed, we have rockets coming out of Gaza. There were Israelis injured during that time.
Yes.
You know, I mean, this should be a very clear message to anyone, because it was Ariel Sharon that a number of years ago gave away Gaza. Every rocket that comes out of Gaza, that there's any bloodshed, any damage, every drop of blood is on the hands of Ariel Sharon.
Absolutely.
And
15 years.
yeah,
15 years. It's
15 years, and look at what has happened. And of course, you know, you guys have this amazing peace deal with Egypt. That's like, in the midst of that peace deal, they're probably smuggling those rockets across the Egyptian border into Gaza. It's insane, Hunter.
it's worse than that, because
Well, we're unstable this morning. Got a bad connection somehow. We'll see how it goes. See if we get him back. There he is. You froze up.
oh, okay. I'll say it again. The text of the agreements has not been released.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a total conspiracy nut. You don't have to be wearing an aluminum foil kippah to begin to question, wait a minute. You've got people telling you what's in the accords and what's not. But let's leave that for a second, because how many times has an agreement in this world been signed and there's one in writing, and then there's the verbiage that goes along with it? Back in the Oslo Accords of '93, Israel agreed that the PLO, the so-called Palestine Liberation Organization, was the sole legitimate representative of something called, quote unquote, the Palestinian people. That continues to bubble to the surface because the folks from United Arab Emirates, from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, who we're still trying to court, keeps talking about justice for them in 2 states for 2 people. Now remember something. With, again, the term that's used is that, quote unquote, annexation is suspended. We're actually talking about sovereignty over part of Judea and Samaria. And not only has it been suspended, but all building and increasing of building and renovations in Jewish communities throughout Judea and Samaria has been frozen. No one's made a statement about it. No one's passed a law about it. But the planning commissions just seemingly have not met for months.
So the news articles, I just saw an article I sent to you that says that, okay, well, this is not a part of the package. There's nothing about this in the package. In the United States, you know that there was a bill signed during the Obama era that the Congress critters actually said, well, we have to pass the bill in order to see what's in the bill. So at this point in time, everything is kind of up for whoever's opinion and speculation.
Exactly.
I think we need to look at this, though, not from a political vein. And that is we need to look at this from a biblical. And maybe this is what is happening in the midst of all of it, Hanok, is that the choice is being made clear today. Do you stand with the scripture or not? Period.
Absolutely.
The discussion is not any more complicated than that. That the Torah specifically states you are not to make treaties or covenants with your enemies. Islam is a sworn enemy of the United States. Period. They haven't changed. They have not stated, there's not a single one of these Islamic countries that has said that Israel has the right to exist, that a Jew has the right to breathe. And so, that's one aspect. The other is when you stand on Elon Moray, as we have many times together, and you read the
Yes.
scripture that says, I will give to you the land, and then it is further explained in Bereshit that the covenant land is to be given to the descendants of Isaac, not to Ishmael.
Right.
And so this is about a political system and people trying to give the covenant, usurp the covenant, and give the land, parts of the land, to Ishmael. Am I totally wrong, or?
No. And the thing is, people keep saying, but it's not about land. It is about land, because I'm telling you something. And I'm almost finished with a whole new blog post dealing with all of this and tying it in, pardon me, with what I've been studying in Sefer Shoftim in the book of Judges. And it does tie in with the land. It ties in with the sanctity of the land, and ties in with this idea that we are willing, God forbid, surrender more of it. Now, people say, well, wait a second. President Trump is assuring everybody that this is peace in our time. Oh, sorry, wrong expression. That has a bad historical connotation. But when he was asked, what about F-35s, the most advanced jet that America has ever built for United Arab Emirates, he said, yeah, no problem. They have no interest in war with Israel. There's peace. Now understand something. I'm still confused. We've signed a peace agreement with United Arab Emirates and a memorandum or understanding of peace, quote unquote, with Bahrain. We've never been at war with either of them. They've never been at war with us. That would be announcing, for instance, Israel is signing a peace treaty with Canada.
Yeah.
We're going to now be getting cheap supplies of maple syrup. Wait a second, but we've never been at war with Canada. Oh, but there's peace. There's peace. Nothing but peace. Well, Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah spoke about that and warned us about, all this talk about peace, and, there really isn't peace. There's a lot of money involved in this thing. And it's a grave concern to me that once we begin suckling this, golden nectar from Bahrain and United Arab Emirates, when they in turn then say, well, but y'all gotta, because of course they'll say that, y'all gotta give up Eastern Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria and create a Palestinian state. What do? Do we detach ourselves from the cash cow? I mean, the major banks here, Bank Leumi, Bank Hapoalim, they've all have these reciprocal deals now. The Emirates is bidding on the management of the Haifa port now. This is unbelievable. But understand something. Our economy is crushed right now. The ones who will benefit from this are the high-tech sector, the biopharmaceutical research sector, the defense sector, and the rich monkey.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to trickle down.
No.
It's not going to help, Shmulik, who owns the falafel stand.
Yeah.
Or Chanoch, who's the tour guide.
Yeah, you're probably not going to have an exchange program between tour guides, between you and this, when you start talking about Saudi Arabia being next in line, does anybody, I'm not getting into the conspiracies here, but does anybody remember 9/11? Wasn't that just a few days
Evidently
ago?
not. Evidently not.
Yeah. This is, I think you put it so well there, of this is about a cash cow. And this is about this, once you put the money into it, it's like I was reading in Samuel this morning of the ones who came to Israel, said, well, we'll make a peace treaty with you, but part of the deal is we're going to gouge out everybody's right eye. Boy, that sounds like fun. And all of a sudden, Saul rises up from the, plowing the field with his prize oxen and does something about it. But I don't see a Saul as far as in a political natural sense here. I don't see a Saul coming out of the field.
No.
Saul was out there plowing because he was getting some money out of the deal. And to think that the politicians all around, so the other aspect of this is, we see in Ezekiel 38 that there is an alignment of war, and it appears that some of this could be aligning for that. Now, I'm not an expert in Ezekiel 38 by any means, and I don't really believe anybody is, but there's some that proclaim themselves to be. We'll see what happens as it goes. But there is an alignment that's talked about in Ezekiel chapter 38. It appears that some of that is happening with Turkey, with Russia, with various ones. But my caution is, in the end, Islam will stick with Islam, period. When the enemy on the table is Israel, it's the, who are they going to go with? They're sure not going to stand with you and say, hey, we'll defend you with these F-35s that we bought from America.
Yeah, it's bizarre that more people don't see it this way, Mike. It's bizarre to me that people are, again, and probably if it wasn't for the fact that Israel, that our government has so mismanaged their response to the whole COVID-19 situation, whatever people think it is or isn't, Israel has blown it big time. Our cabinet met last week for the first time in 5 weeks. You'd swear there was nothing going on in the world. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. We've got a prime minister under indictment for 3 serious criminal charges. And it's amazing. And do you know what gets me? Someone wrote me, this was just a week ago, saying, is Israel opening up for the feasts? A week ago. This is before the lockdown was announced. So I said no. And I went on to explain, what was going on. because they said, is Israel opening up for the feasts, and what are you doing? I assumed they weren't talking about the feast, so I said, I've been out of work more than 6 months. There's no end. Anyway, so they write back, say, gee, I'm really bummed out. I wanted to come. Well, I'm sorry. I'm bummed out too that you couldn't come. But, I'm more bummed out, for instance, with the lockdown, that my daughter is stuck in Jerusalem by herself and can't be with me. Again, 500 meters.
Yeah.
This is, it's a bad situation getting worse by the moment.
It seems like there was, talk of this so-called peace deal began back to the, lining it up with the festivals here. It looks like Israel was doing fine during the springtime until all of a sudden, well, let's do the peace deal thing, and then the reports of COVID and everything. And now there's been negotiation behind the scenes. I mean, it's almost like the Almighty's saying, "Excuse me, guys, I really don't want you going in this path." But who am I to say what would be? I don't know.
It's bizarre, and the fact that none of us anywhere in the world are in a real position to kind of step away from things, to kind of get in the big picture view of things. We're all so inundated. Our dear friends in DeRidder, Joe and Heather Amon, and Out of Ashes Ministries. I mean, that area was devastated by the hurricane.
Yeah.
I was looking at the American media. I saw barely a mention of it.
No.
Although I did see the video where Joe Biden was giving statistics on COVID infections, and someone should tell him when there's a 1,189,000, it's 1,189,000, not 1,189,000. But again,
yeah.
And these are math skills that were honed in the Bronx. So I don't really know a lot. But you all can just laugh at our coalitions here in Israel.
Oh, I know.
Like someone said to me the other day, Hanoch, you criticize Netanyahu, but a majority of Israelis voted for him. That's not true. Likud, you have to remember, 120 seats in the Knesset. Likud is less than a third of that.
Yeah.
It's not, come on.
Listen,
Anyway.
It took me years to begin to understand the Israeli politics. And you put that through a filter of Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and the Green Party. Imagine having 120 parties and you have to bring enough of them together to have a coalition. Yeah, that dog ain't gonna hunt, kind of thing. So it's not that
there's never.
Yeah, Bibi didn't win the Electoral College, put it that way.
No, there's never been a party in 72 years that gained a majority of seats. Not one party ever. The labor alignment years ago, never. Golda Meir, never. Ben Gurion, never.
Well, Hanoch, I think it comes down to something very, very simple. I mean, in the complexity of the world today, could it be just all boiled down to one simple statement? And that statement, to me, was best brought forth from a mutual friend of ours, Josh Waller, in a song that he wrote of "There's a line in the sand. Where will you stand?" It's no more difficult than that. We're being asked a
When
question. Will you
exactly.
stand? Will you stand with political systems? You know, in the scriptures I was reading this morning in Samuel, it was Samuel's trying to talk the people out of a king. He's like, no, you don't want to go here. You don't want to do this. Yes, we do. We choose the political system over the word that was revealed to us on Mount Sinai, period. And so the same thing is being played out here. We don't really need to stand, well, we need to, read it on Shabbat. We need to have a little religious experience around it. But when it comes down to it, we're going to choose the kings of this world to straighten out everything instead of standing clearly on the side that he says. There's no gray area today. It's not gray. It is either black or white, light and dark. Which side of this are you going to stand on? Are you with the covenant of the people in the land or not?
Yeah.
End of statement.
Yeah, that really says it. And what's interesting is that even those who want to support Israel seem confused or befuddled. And I don't really get that. Judea and Samaria were liberated in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And again, although better in math than Joe Biden, I'm not a math whiz. But 67 to 2020 is 53 years, correct?
I
Yeah.
I think it is. I wasn't real good at going to school.
Someone's going to write in after this, after listening, saying, "Hanoch, where'd you get your?" Anyway, for 53 years, we've sat on the fence,
Mhm.
not surrendering all of Judea and Samaria, but not incorporating it into the state of Israel either.
Yeah.
In 93, we went with the Oslo Accords, A, B, and C, which essentially created Judea and Samaria to look like Swiss cheese, covered on top with a patchwork quilt. You have this centimeter of land, we have that centimeter of land, the other centimeter of land is ours for now, but will be yours. I mean, you have no idea how many times I have tried to explain it to people, to tour groups, and illustrate it with maps, and people are looking at me saying,
Yeah.
who would design a system like that?
Yeah. I know. I've seen those same looks when you're trying to explain it with the map sitting there in front of you, because it goes back to this, again, very simple. People do not see that the land of Judea and Samaria is really relevant to them. Oh yeah, we're part of, we're part of Israel. Yeah, the inheritance of the land. Okay, but it's still something that's thousands of miles away. When what rings in my mind, in my head, and I'm not going to say the name of the person. Of course, you know who this is, but just for security's sake, I'm not going to say. But there's a dear friend of ours in the hills of Judea, Samaria, that said this to our group one time. We are here holding the land for you.
If only people would really take that to heart. Listen, you and I, given no choice by the situation, have been forced to postpone our next Connect to Israel experience. February 28th through March 11th. If one more person writes to me saying, when the Lord makes a way for me to go, I'd love to join Mike and you. Okay, the Lord has made a way. We've created this experience unique in the entire world. We're telling you about it, but the Lord is really saying to you, y'all got to get off your butts and do something.
Yeah.
It's the classic thing where the guy gets up every morning and cries out to the heavens, God, just let me win the lottery. And he does this. It's more than a decade, day in and day out, 365 days a year. Finally, a voice in response says, can you at least buy a ticket?
Now, we're not promoting the lottery, but
No.
it's very simple. You know, somebody that is saying, you know, I want to go, but has not come up with that cookie jar, their little piggy bank, we can't have a piggy bank because that's not kosher. But you know, your whatever little bank that you've got there, a bovine bank, that'd be good. You haven't gotten that jar. You haven't put the first $5 into it yet. You need to quit praying until you're willing to do something about it. And that is true with a trip to Israel. That is true with standing with Israel. If we're not willing to stand against the political system of this day and speak out and say, no, I will not support anyone who in any way even speaks about giving away 1 inch, centimeter, speck of dust in the land of Israel. I will not stand. I cannot stand there. Because to take a stand with giving away that speck of dust is, in my opinion, to not stand with the Almighty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, talking about planning, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
So, you know, expecting, remember years ago who was it? Ed McMahon was supposed to come knocking at your door telling you won the Publishers Clearinghouse something. Was it something like that? Yeah. It's a vague memory from childhood.
Yeah. Now it's somebody else. They've got somebody else doing it. All right, ColeYehuda.com. If you want to respond to Hanok, you want to just get some information, be a part of his blog that's going to be coming out very, very soon. You just have questions about the land and what's going on there. Hanok's a great resource. Hebrew for Hebrew, for, you know, a number of just overall questions. So tagging that as I always do onto this video. Well, don't be safe. You know,
Thanks, Mike.
Let me be the. We're going to be entering into that time here in just about 48 hours. So have a blessed festival season.
Thanks, man. You too. Love to the family.